right, so today we start this topic, which is probably one of the most strategic topic in the literature of economics. It's called free market economy and price mechanism. Free market economy is basically this chapter is the basic foundation of entire capitalism. The entire free market economy is based on the key fundamental things that we shall discuss today during the lecture. The law of demand is the first thing. And why I start with the law of demand, because in the last lecture, we had discussion about desire, want, need, and demand. And as you know that demand is something which includes wish/desire plus accumulation of resources which you can spend. And third, last but not the least, the willingness to spend those resources. So if you have some fancy idea, it's a desire or wish, but when you start working towards achievement of that objective, it shows that it's a want. And then at third stage, now you have the resources which you can spend to accomplish your desire or your want, then it becomes a demand. So demand is something, a third stage. So there's an evolution from wish, desire, to want, to finally demand. All right, and today we shall study the law of demand. The law of demand says, ceteris paribus, or other things being equal, the quantity of goods demanded per period of time will fall as the price rises and will rise as the price fall. So the law of demand basically tells you that there is an inverse relationship between price and demand, other things being equal. So higher the price, lower the demand, and lower the price, higher is demand. Okay, I can quickly get some clarity with you. So we can say that the quantity which is demanded depends on the price. So if we talk about the demand of X commodity is a function of price of X commodity. So in other words, if the price goes up, then the demand goes down. And if the price goes down, the demand goes up. And the other things being equal. The other things could be your fashion, your habits, your income, your wealth, population, technology. I'll come back to that point, okay? But the core idea is that there is an inverse or negative relationship association between the price of a commodity and the quantity of it which is demanded. Now, mark my word. Here I said, there is an inverse relationship between price and demand. Can I say, this is a question for you, for everybody. Now, the question for you is that, can I also say that there is an inverse relationship between demand and price? So what I'm saying here is, it's a bit a jugglery of words, so try to catch the idea which I'm trying to put in your head. There is an inverse means opposite, association between price and demand. More price, the full line, low demand, dotted line, low price, dotted line, more demand. So it seems that the relationship between the two variables is negative. And I say there is an inverse relationship between price and demand. Can I say that there is an inverse relationship between demand and price. Look, there's a difference when I say price and demand and price. It's a question for you. Did you understand the question or not? Yep. You're very right. You're very right when you say that it's not the same thing. I'll tell you something, and I can show you. When I say price and demand, which is true, which I agree, it shows that the price triggers demand. The change in price triggers a change in demand. Until yesterday, the price was €1 and the family was consuming 10 kilos or something. Today, the price went to €2 and the family has to cut down the consumption. So price triggers demand. But what if I say that price of X commodity depends on the demand of X commodity? Sorry for my handwriting. I try to be. It means that demand is the cause, and the price is the effect. Tell me something. When demand for something increases, what happens to price? When demand of some commodity is on the rise, what happens to its price? What's the common sense say? What does common sense say? Demand is increasing of something. What happens to its price? Price increases, obviously. And if something is falling in demand, the demand for something is going down, what happens to its price? Falls. Good job. Can you see the pattern of arrowheads in both cases? Here, price triggers demand. Here, demand triggers price. Can you see some formulation difference between the two? When price triggers change in demand, the relationship is negative or inverse. But when the demand triggers change in the price, then when one increases, the other increases. When one falls, the other falls. It means they both go in the same direction. Hence, the relationship is positive. The relationship is positive when I say demand triggers price. But the relationship is negative when I say price triggers demand. Now, be very careful. There is an exam, and I asked you to define law of demand. And somebody writes, there is some, let's say, there is a negative relationship between demand and price. I'll give, with very heavy heart, I have to give the cross. Why? Because the negative relationship is not between demand and price. The negative relationship is between price and demand. As a convention, as a norm, we always write the cause variable first and the effect variable later, second. Does it make sense? So one lesson we learn from here, that whenever you talk about law of demand, always say there is a negative association between price and demand. Never, never, never say that there is a negative relationship between demand and price, because you have seen with your own eyes that when demand triggers a change in the price, it goes in the same direction. So it's a positive. Does it make sense? Yeah? So never say demand and price, always say price and demand. The reason the law of demand applies, it is because of two impacts. The first impact is that the income effect. Whenever there is a fall in the price of something, your real income increases. The real income. The real income is your buying capacity, your purchasing power. And with the increased real income, you can buy something more. I can give you an example. Another one, I think, here. So imagine the price of milk is, let's say, is €2. Just imagine. Sorry for this thing, but I try to be as. And let's say that your income, your monetary income, your money income is €10. So in other words, at a price of €2 per liter, your demand is basically 5 liters. So the maximum capacity of milk, the maximum amount of milk you can purchase at €2 per liter price with the income. So at a price of €2, the maximum capacity, maximum amount of milk which a household can buy is 5 liters. If your income is, look here, your nominal income, what I'm doing, or the real income or the money income is €10. 5 liters of milk is your purchasing power. Purchasing power or the buying capacity is called real income. So in other words, if you have a €10 note or 2 notes of €5, then your real income is 5 liters of milk, equal to 5 liters of milk. Now imagine the price goes down and the price drops to €1.25. So if the family still want to buy 5 liters, then multiply 1.25 with 5 liters of demand, it makes an expense of €6.25. You had €10 with you. Now you buy 5 liters, you only pay €6.25. Technically, with a drop in the price, your real income increased by €3.75. Even though your nominal income is still €10, but with a drop in the price, your real income has increased to €3.75. Because if the family has a budget of 5 liters, I mean, they have a demand, they just want 5 liters of milk, they can't drink more. Then with a drop in the price, they spend less. And when they spend less, what happens? They have some saving. That saving is called the real income increase. Their wage has not been increased, the salary is same, the money is not doubled, the nominal income is still the same. But what happens? Their real income or the buying capacity increases with a drop in price. And similarly, with the increase in the price, the real income will drop. So the first thing is that the price change is caused by, it can be explained by the change in the real income. It's very important that you be clear, be aware that we have 2 concepts of income. The one income is called nominal income, which is like the paper notes and the bank account, all the money which you say, if you say that, what, I have a saving of €500. It is your nominal income. But the real income is what can you buy with that 500 euros? If there's more inflation, like nowadays, the price is increasing. And I know many families, they see a lot of strain on their kitchen budget. It means that with the same nominal income, their real income is falling. People are more careful these days. When they move from one room to another, they switch off electricity because the energy prices are going up. People are avoiding too much of traveling in the car because the gasoline is almost doubled. So the nominal income is same, but people have lower purchasing power, or the real income is going down. So but that is very important to remember. And that's a very important explanation why demand increases when the price drops and why demand shrinks when the price rises. Okay, the second explanation, so this is called the income effect, by the way. Income effect. Yeah. The second reason why the law of demand holds or is applicable is called substitution effect. Substitution. The goods are substitutes. Many goods, they have their substitutes, even if they're not perfect substitutes, but somewhat substitutes do exist. Substitutions, yeah. I can give you several examples when the goods are substitutes, but I can give you one visible example of tea and coffee because I'm an addict of tea and coffee both. I like to have tea in the morning and coffee later in the day, but sometimes I have no choice, so I can switch them, even though I'm not very happy if I have to swap them. But there is no choice. At least I don't drink lime water when I want to have tea or coffee, right? So it's either between tea or coffee, right? Now see what happens. The price of coffee so I explain. So the price of coffee drops. The price of tea remains constant, same. So it doesn't change. What will happen among the consumers? What would happen when the consumers see that the price of tea which they drink is constant, it doesn't change? I won't say that it increases. Maybe I'll close this, sorry. When they know that the price of coffee has become cheaper, the price of tea is constant, no change, what happens to consumers who like to have this hot beverage in the morning or later in the day? What happens to them? Then the demand for tea drops. And then finally, the demand for coffee increases. Because when there is a price of coffee, there is a price of tea. When the price of coffee drops and the price of tea doesn't drop, doesn't rise, same, constant, then the relative price, you see, one is the absolute price. The absolute price of coffee have dropped from 10 euros to 8 euros. The absolute price of tea was 6 euros before, and it doesn't change. But see, there is something called comparative price. The comparative price of tea to coffee was 10 divided by 6. So if I divide 10 by 6, it comes to be 1.67. And when I divide 8 by 6, it comes to be 1.33, I think. So in other words, even though the absolute price of tea doesn't change, the absolute price of tea is still 6 euros, it's still 6 euros. It was 6 euros, it still is 6 euros. But comparatively, tea has become expensive than coffee. Can you see that? Because earlier, if you spend €1 on tea, you used to spend 1.61 euros, 1.67 euros on coffee. But now, if you spend €1 on tea, you spend 1.33 euros on coffee. So coffee has become cheaper comparatively than tea, even though the absolute price of tea remains constant, but the comparative price of tea is more and the comparative price of coffee has dropped. And as a result, people who used to drink tea, they start switching over to coffee. No fault of tea price and the demand for tea have dropped because people have switched over from tea to coffee. This is called substitution effect. When people start substituting, in the olden days, when the production was limited, the markets were small, we used to have lesser substitutes. Now, with the advent of technology, with the rising living standards, the consumers have much more variety of things to choose from. And this is why the substitution effect has become very strong. Nowadays, if you want to have protein, you don't need to have protein for certain food. You can have multiple choice of protein. And then you compare which food price, which enhances your protein level, have become comparatively cheaper. And then you start substituting that for the expensive one. So therefore, the substitution effect is very strong. So technically, all I'm trying to say is that if you have the law of demand is in principle the price effect. This effect can be split between the income effect and the substitution effect. So in other words, I can say that the PE, the price effect, which is caused by law of demand, is equal to IE, the income effect, plus the SE, the substitution effect. Okay, and if you want to get some real life example, I have a link here, the income effect, which shows that people want to, when the price drops, the income goes up, and when the price rises, the income, when the price rises, the income drops, basically, the real income. If you want, I can show you this link. It's a very important article. I got it last year from bbc.com, which is a very good source of information. If you allow me to open a window. Yeah. Yeah, is it visible? Oh, doesn't matter. So what is the UK inflation rate and why is the cost of living rising? And this tells you that how the consumer prices are way more. Is it last year's article? Was it published in? Well, yeah, something. The cost of living is increasing at a fastest rate in 40 years. I think this is last year's. And so it tells you that, no, it's this year. Sorry, I'm mixing up. So you can see that the Bank of England, the target was 2% of inflation. Normally, the banks, all over the world, especially in the OECD countries, they usually want to keep inflation in control. And I would say that 2% is the safest limit of inflation. If an economy has an inflation of 2% or less, it's a safe limit. You get my point? If it is more than 2%, then controlling inflation is very complicated. And we will have a separate topic of discussion once we finish it about inflation. But as a rule of thumb, we say that inflation is a walking inflation. If it is about 1% or something, Walking, walking, we all walk. and, and if it's about 2%, we call it mild inflation. Mild inflation. And if it is about 10%, we call it running inflation. Running inflation. And if it is about 20% a year or something, we call it galloping inflation. Gallop. Have you heard the word gallop before? What is galloping? Which animal comes to your mind when you see the gallop? The horse. Okay. And if the inflation is about 100% a year, we call it hyperinflation. Hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is that you are carrying money maybe in the suitcase, and you go to the retail shop and you drop the money from the suitcase and you get a piece of bread. And next the price is even more. So next day you have 2 suitcases and you get half of the piece of bread next day. This is called hyperinflation. And I'm not making a hypothetical thing. World has seen such things in the real life, the hyperinflation. People, there's so many movies, if you check on YouTube, where it shows that people are carrying money on the horses just to get maybe an egg or something. So the hyperinflation during 1930s, Europe has seen it. And in fact, it is said that both world wars, primarily, they were the byproduct of inflation. So inflation have very strong political backlash as well. So it's very important to know that how fast inflation can cause political turmoil as well. It can change the governments. And it's UK, and you see that we have an example of the change of the shortest duration of a prime minister of Britain. Okay, and one reason, rather the major reason, is something to do with the economic policy. People are so jaded, people are so dejected that they don't have patience anymore. They check, they judge, they make a decision in a span of few days. And why not? Why shouldn't they do it? Why should they take a leader for ages and ages and ages? And even though they're unhappy with, I mean, this is the beauty of democracy. I know people can say that it's a political instability, but at least they don't take nonsense for years. So the whole idea was that please go through this article, and this will tell you that why inflation have a hole in the pocket. Not only, even if your money remains constant, but your purchasing power drops sizably, considerably. Even though we will discuss more in detail, but I can't hold myself from giving an example. We use a phrase called wage illusion. Wage illusion or money illusion. But look at this article first. I'll come back to this wage and money illusion. Separate research focusing that in 30 days, supermarket item revealed a dramatic increase in the price of pasta, tea. So obviously, if the tea goes up, I think coffee would be the gainer. So I was talking to you about, people compare the prices. If the increase in price of tea is more than the increase in the price of coffee, then it's very highly likely that those who are indifferent between tea and coffee, people like me, they would move away from tea and they will move to coffee. So all else being equal, if the increase in the price of tea or coffee is less than 46%, then it's quite likely that many people, they move away from tea and they go towards coffee, which is called what? Substitution effect. So please go through this article and maybe you will like it. All right, where are we? Oh, no, this one. So these two articles are very important. And just before we went, we were discussing about these two articles. I use the phrase wage illusion. The wage illusion is something which I think it's very important that I discuss with you now. is something which the employers do with the workers, that when the workers demand more wages, first of all, they don't concede the demand. As a result, the workers go on strike. They go on strike in one factory, in next factory, and so on and so forth. Eventually, the good sense prevail, and all these owners, they decide that let's give an increase, let's increase the wages. They do it. They increase the wages of workers on an average, let's say 10%. The employees are very happy. They celebrate of the success. Look, we have been so successful in pushing, pressing the management to increase the wages. But don't forget that wage is a cost. To who? To the company. And what they do? They add the cost of increased wages and they increase the price of the product. And since we are the mutual buyers of each other's products, the workers working in the bicycle company, they also buy food. And those who work in the food sector, they also buy some construction material to repair some, to repair the house and all that thing. And those who work in this hardware type of companies, they also need to travel. And when all the prices of these items, they increase, then what happens? The buying capacity of the workers remains same. So even though their nominal income is more than before, they have a heavier wallet now, but their buying capacity, their purchasing power remains same or even go down. So imagine if I'm your employer and I give you 10% wage hike, but then the inflation is 15%. So technically, you are getting poorer by 5%, even though it seems that you're richer by 10%, looking at your nominal income. But when I see your real income, you are poorer than before by 5%. So this is called wage illusion. It's like illusion. You think you are richer, but you are actually poorer than before. For instance, for last many years, we have been seeing that if you have a bank deposit, if you keep your money with the bank is giving you 1% rate of interest, maybe less actually. Whereas if inflation is 2%, so basically your money in the bank is not increasing, it's decreasing. When you look at the real value of the money, nominally the money is growing, but in the real sense, the money's value or money's worth is going down. So therefore, illusion. Capitalism is a fantastic system, but it's full of illusions as well. So be careful. Yeah. This is the, I think there is a some message. Let me see. Right. So we have a demand. So if you have to plot the relationship between the price and the demand. So on the one hand, you can see that the price is increasing. It start from 20 pence, if it is a British example, is going up from 20 pence to 40 until it becomes £1. And then Kate is somebody. I don't know who Kate is, but she's somebody. Then going by the law that there is an inverse relationship between price and demand, we see that as the price goes up, the demand goes down. And when we plot this relationship on a graph, pictorial representation, graphical way, it comes like this. So technically you can plot this and the demand curve looks like downward sloping curve. Does it make sense? So when you see the relationship between price and demand, it becomes inverse. And same way, you can plot the demand for Simon separately. Okay. Obviously, Simon may demand different quantity on a given price because Simon may be poorer, or maybe he doesn't like this product. So there are many reasons because we are so different. And when we combine all the people living in the society, their demand, it becomes the market demand. So imagine there are so many people living in this country in Britain because it's in pence. So, and if we add all the demand, it comes to be 700 tons. So yeah, something like this. So this, when we combine the individual demands, it becomes the aggregated demand or the market demand. But it doesn't change anything. The core remains same, that as the price goes down, as the price increases, the quantity demanded would go down. Whether it's individual or individuals, or it's an aggregated demand. And when you plot them, it looks like same. It looks like downward sloping demand curve. And it shows that when the price is low, demand is more. As the price increases, demands start diminishing. And when the price is very high, demand could be very low. Does it make sense? So this is a very basic thing, but it's very important to know. So here is something which I want to discuss is called demand function. Demand function. So I can say that demand for X good depends on the price of X good. Text here. Just a sec. So demand for the X good, I can start here. So I can say that the demand for X good is a function of price of X good, price of C good, price of R good, income, wealth, maybe population, technology, of course, income distribution, and many more factors. I keep this. First of all, please tell me one thing. Whenever I say that something is a function of, so I put the letter F. So demand for X is a function of this, that. What does function of means? Function of means. What does it stand for? What does it stand for? Do you study the data analysis course? Not yet, okay. So it basically means that there is a commodity, there's a product, and the name of the product is X. X could be a marker, X could be food, X could be anything. It depends upon price of X. So demand of X and the price of X. It depends upon price of C. C is called complementary goods. Okay, if you want, I can write it down. C means complementary. Well, there's no formula, but I'm just making it. Complementary. S is a substitute. Substitute good. Income is income, rest you know what it means. When the price of milk increases, what happens to demand of milk? Sorry, it drops, okay? So it means that the price of the same commodity and the demand for the same. So the X and the, the demand for X and the price of X. Can you give me some example of complementary goods? Complementary goods are those goods which are demanded together. Like for example, when you buy a car, you must buy the fuel, right? Yes. Tea, yeah, if you buy tea, then you might buy sugar as well. Yeah. If you buy some vegetables, you buy some spices as well. Is a good example. But I don't know. But there are many goods. If you buy shoes, you have to buy socks as well, whatever. So they are called complementary goods. The complementary means when you buy one, you have to have another one. Complementary goods I can give you, when you buy a house, you have to buy the house insurance as well. If you buy a house in Finland, you also have to buy those shovels and those things because snow can be bit. So all these things you need to buy. When you buy a car, you also have to buy those things like wiper, those cleaners, things, some the liquids which you use to, the motor oil and those things. Anyway, you know what I mean to say. Complementary goods. That's a good example, tea and sugar. When, let's call C as T. For some time, yeah. Let's call C as complementary goods, called T, and demand for X sugar, and C tea. Zara? Yeah. When price of tea increases, what happens to demand for sugar? I repeat, when price of tea increases, what happens to demand for sugar? Decreases. It means that there is a positive or negative relationship between the price and demand of complementary goods. Negative, yeah. What happens to the, sorry, I shouldn't have written here R. It should be S. Sorry, it's my fault. It's R and S are same here. All I wanted to say is that substitute goods. When the price of coffee increases, what happens to demand for tea? I repeat, when the price of coffee goes up, what happens to demand for tea? Increases. So what is the relationship between price and demand when it comes to substitute goods? Negative or positive? Excellent. This is the beauty. This is all I want you to know. Okay, let's do the repetition. When the price of tea increases, yeah, listen carefully. When the price of tea increases, what happens to demand for tea? Decreases. This is the law of demand, right? When the price of tea increases, what happens to demand for sugar? Decrease. It means that the relationship between the price and demand of complementary goods is negative, right? And what happens to when the price of tea increases? What happens to demand for coffee? Increases, because there's a positive relationship between price and demand. Never say demand and price. Always say price and demand, okay? Otherwise, the whole picture would be reversed. What happens to income? When people's income increase, you become richer. What happens to demand for something? Increases. So we expect, because this is a theory model, we expect that when the income of people increase, and same way, if the wealth of people increase, the demand for the products will go up. What is the difference between income and wealth, by the way? Because I wrote two words, but I gave very quickly same explanation. What is the difference between income and wealth? Can you see when you look at, you don't have to go very far away, just look at yourself, the family, friends around, and can you distinguish between their income and wealth? Can you have a lot of income with no wealth? Can you have a lot of wealth with no income? Can you have both? Can you have none? Well, that's very unfortunate. Yeah. It could be possible that you're working in the future. You become an executive, you become a manager, and then you have a colleague. And the colleague and you have the same salary, right? Because you were recruited same scale, same designation. You live in the rented apartment. And one day your colleague invites you, hey, let's come for the dinner. And you go there. And you enter the house where your colleague lives. It's a palatial house. It's more like a castle. It's more like a palace. Tell me something. Do you have same income and same wealth? Same income, but not same wealth. So what happens to the wealth then? Wealth must be accumulated income in the past, and it result in something more tangible and more prolific. You get my point? Two colleagues, they have same salary. They come in car. One come in the car like I have, my old Toyota, and the other one is coming in very, very posh Tesla or whatever. Even I can even exaggerate. We might have same income, but not same wealth. Okay, make sense? But the impact is same. Technology. With the technology, does demand increase or not? Does technological development around you have an impact on your demand? When I say demand, it means I'm talking about your living standards, demand for things. More you demand, higher it signifies your living standards. Does it have any impact? Does it or not? Yeah. I mean, look at the demand for electronic gadgets you have. It is because of, it's caused by, the cause variable is technology, and the impact variable is that, look at the consumption of techno products you have. Income distribution. When the income is very uneven in a country, rich are super rich, the poor are so deprived. Number one situation. Is it that the demand is more in this type of society, or the second society where the gap between rich and poor is not much? Where do you see the demand more? In more equal societies or in more unequal societies? More equal and not much in more unequal societies? Okay, can you explain why, what could be the reason why the equal societies have more demand and the unequal societies have lesser demand? Yep. When you have a very unequal society, rich are very rich, poor are very poor, and the price of something declines, drops. Rich are so rich that they don't even care about the price. And the poor are so poor that even if the price of something drops, it still for them is like a far cry, is like something which is totally out of their reach. Let's talk about some low-priced car. Every family has a dream to have a car so that their life can be easier, and it's also in many countries it shows as symbol of your living standards. If you're a rich person, super rich person, and you need to buy a new Porsche car, you don't care about the price because you're so rich that you don't wait till the price drops. You just go and buy it. Come on. You know, these people in the Gulf countries, those very rich sheikhs, do you give a damn to any price? Do they? No. They just buy. If they have to buy, they can buy instantly. They go to buy one car, they end up buying 3 cars because they like 2 more. Or, you know, it remains between us. But if there is a second, third, fourth hand car, you know, that remains out of reach, even if a person is very poor. If an average second-hand used car price is 5,000 euros and it drops to 4,000 euros, it still remains a distant dream for a very poor person to buy it. It means that rich don't care if the price goes up. For the poor, the affordability is still impossible even if the price drops. So what happens then? Overall, demand doesn't pick up. On the other hand, in the more equal societies, the middle class is very big. Look, why most of the multinational companies are eyeing at India, China, Bangladesh, all these emerging Asian economies. You know why? Because in the recent past, in the recent history, their middle class income has gone substantially high. Those people, which used to be a dream for a granddad, and for which the dad used to be sulking, now they're owned by the kids. Because the living standards have gone up, people's affordability has gone up, that those people can buy those. And this is the reason there is a ready-made demand available in South Asia, in Southeast Asia. And this is why the major multinational companies, their litmus test of success is how much they sell in Asia, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. Do you get my point? So those countries where the income distribution is more even, relatively even, those societies have a huge number of middle class people, the middle income people, and this is where the demand picks up a lot. Okay, and then there can be many other factors which can cause demand to decline or to grow. Please tell me something. Have I missed out something in this function? When you see the price of the good, price of complementary, price of substitute, income, wealth, population, technology, income distribution. And one more reason why Asia, South Asia and Southeast Asia, why businesses are, the global businesses, they want to go because they're highly populous. India, 1.4 billion, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, imagine that block of countries. And similarly in Southeast Asia, even though the countries are small, but if you see the density of population, it's massive. So relatively population is very high in those countries as well. So they are ready-made demand, you know, available for the big companies. But the point here is that, have I missed out something in this function? Can there be some more variable which can have an impact on the demand? Sorry? Well, that's included in the population and also price of X. So the price goes down, people want to demand more, so more consumers. Price of tea up, consumers who buy tea, they start thinking about coffee. So consumer is included. Anything else you think? Did I miss any point? I need at least 3 points, only then I would give you a break, otherwise not. Yep. That comes in the income distribution. Yeah. You're going to say, one of you, I think. No, I overheard something.
Recording.
Sorry. Nothing is. So 3 more points, then I would let you go. Otherwise, When you see some societies where the demand level, consumption level is very high, what are their characteristics? And on the other hand, you see the country where the overall living standards are very low, very poor. In other words, the level of demand is very low. What causes the low demand and what causes the high demand? That's a very basic question. Sorry? So if the living standards, for example, in a country, there is a more health facilities, there is a more education facilities, or better health or better education facilities, we expect that the demand would be more. Because people don't have to spend money on those health services, education, that money is saved, could be spent. Well, given that the tax rate is not very high. So the existing living standards. So if I have to add 3 more points, I would say the existing living standards. Anything else? Yep. Expectation. That's a very good point. If people in the society, they have a very positive outlook about the country and the society, only then they will buy the house. I'm just giving an example. So the demand for housing in a country, or demand for very expensive car, or all those things which are, I'm not talking about milk and sugar, I'm talking about very expensive goods. If people have a very positive outlook about the future, only then they would spend this big fortune of their money on such things. So the future expectations, about life, yeah? Now, coming from the future expectation, I come one more word, future expectations of price. If you are planning to buy a house and you have a strong reason to believe that in the future, the price of the house will drop, tell me, will you buy it now? No? You will wait. So the demand for the housing market right now will what? Will drop. And if you have a strong reason to believe that in the future, the prices of houses or the automobiles will become very expensive, what would you do now? Exactly. So the future expectation is a very good point you gave me. It's about the overall, about life, perceptions, and it also can be related to the future prices. Does it make sense? So we can have tons and tons of factors which can contribute towards the demand. But don't forget, never write that law of demand is about demand and price. No, always say about price and demand. One last thing before we have a break. Look at the definition of law of demand. The law of demand tells that there is an inverse relationship between price and demand, ceteris paribus, other things being what? Same or equal. And which are these other things here? The other things are price of complementary goods, the price of substitutes, income, population, technology, distribution, future expectation, and all that. These all are other things. So when I say that the price of milk has increased, and Jack, or this lady Kate, she has cut down the consumption of milk, it basically means that Kate or Jack is only reacting to the price of milk. Other things are equal. If Kate is richer than Jack, then she doesn't care about the milk price going up or down. If Kate and Jack are living in a society which is more equal, it could be that they both are middle income people, then it's quite likely that they would buy it. But if Kate and Jack are coming from very low income, and we are talking about the demand of car, automobiles, houses, it doesn't matter to them because they can't afford it anyways. Right? So when I say there is an inverse relationship between price and demand, ceteris paribus, then ceteris paribus include everything starting from PC until infinity. All right? So now we take a short break. We meet at, let's say, 20 past, and then we'll watch a video together. Hope you will like it. Thank you so much. See you soon.